How would you rate your happiness on a scale of 0 to 100? What if you knew there was an actual equation that would tell you where you rank on a scale of 0 to 100 on how happy you are today? Well, there is that equation. It's called Your Happiness Equation, and the author, Leighton Campbell, is going to dissect the 7 components to happiness that make up your score. I'm excited to get into why he's chosen these 7 elements and then how you can start to implement these 7 elements in your life to drive up your happiness score. And here's a spoiler alert, you'll get my score at the end of this episode. All right, let's rock. Welcome to the Good Mood Revolution. I'm your host, Matt O'Neill, and I've spent the last 15 years mastering the art of lasting happiness. Look, happiness isn't just a feeling, it is a skill, and it's a skill that you can learn and master. This show is your training ground. Let your Good Mood Revolution begin now. So man, wouldn't it be great if we just had a formula for what it means to be happy? Like if we just had a playbook on exactly what to do and we knew we just did these 7 things and we did them right, that we'd be happy. Well, good news. We actually do have that playbook and it's called Your Happiness Equation. It's a book that is just now being released by Leighton Campbell. Welcome to Good Mood Revolution.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Looking forward to our conversation.
Man, I was so excited to learn about your happiness equation. I went immediately onto your website. I got my happiness score. I'll reveal it at the end of the episode. I don't want to give it away, but I just really thought it was a great assessment that you've created, and I'm really excited to dive into your book and learn more and to have this conversation with you today. But I know that things weren't always like the most happy they could be. You know, what was your journey that kind of led you to this path?
You know, this book has really kind of been like a culmination of my life. You know, everything that I've gone through, both good and bad, led me to the point where I was able to kind of put all of this together. So there are many different touchstones in my life that I could talk about, but I think one that really drove home the importance of a lot of the concepts I talk about in the book. So I got divorced after 7 years of marriage, and we had 3 children at the time. But the hardest part was not having 100% access to my children. That was so difficult to deal with. For context, I mean, I would read to my children every night. We read all types of books together. We read Moby Dick together. That's a huge book. And we had great stories and we've done amazing things. So go from being there every night to 50%. It was a very, very difficult time for that and many other reasons. And I do tell the story in the book, but the context in the book that I bring it up is finding the good. So divorce, not good. However, something that came out of it is something that I will remember for the rest of my life. I'm sure on my deathbed, I'll be thinking about some of the moments that I'm about to tell you. But when I thought about, okay, look, I used to have 100% access to my kids. Now I'm 50%. Like, I really got to make this 50% count. Like, I want to do everything. I don't want to leave anything on the table. If there's anything crazy, epic that we can do, I want to do it. Our very first trip we took was, we call it the Crazy Horse Ride. And around this point of time, we just had recently gotten divorced and I'm trying to maximize my time with them. I was like, you guys, do you want to go see it? They're like, what do you mean? I was like, let's go see it. Let's go to the Crazy Horse Monument and see the statue and everything. We have amazing stories from that time. Just really, really epic times and moments that I had with them. And the crazy thing is, and this is kind of unfortunate, but had I not gotten divorced, I probably wouldn't have done some of that stuff. I would have taken our time for granted. To some degree, I turned it up a notch just because I knew, like, I didn't have 100% access. So, and from that, some of those stories bring tremendous joy, and we do trips periodically. So I know we're going to get a lot more of that as time goes on.
Man, I love finding the good. And anybody that loves happiness knows that things don't always go our way. Sometimes we got the divorce. Sometimes we've got the disappointment. Sometimes we got the challenge. But in every single negative event, something good's coming out of it. There's always opportunity. What you're describing right now is that the opportunity for you, even though you could have stayed devastated, right? I'm sure you could have hung your head low. You could have felt like a failure. You could have chosen all of those mindsets. But instead you said, no, I'm going to look for the good. And the good was well, man, I'm going to turn it up a notch. I'm going to be a better dad now than I ever was and than I ever would have been. And then what happens is you become the best dad you possibly could have been. So sometimes adversity turns us into our greatest self. And who would Batman be if there wasn't a Joker? Who would Winston Churchill be if he hadn't had to face a Hitler? Right? The greatest heroes of all time are only there because they go through adversity.
It's very true. There's so many things to learn from that. And I think people understanding that they need to go through life with that state of mind is just really powerful. You got to be prepared for these times. This book does talk about happiness, and there's a lot of joy and things that are in the book, but we also talk about hard stuff because that is a part of life, and you have to be happy when the hard stuff happens and get through it and get on the other side. You're going to have some stuff that you're going to have to deal with, and being prepared mentally, just being aware that that is part of life. Like, people know that, but do you really take a moment and think like, man, I'm going to have some really challenging things ahead of me, and I have an obligation for the people around me to be happy, to help them through it, to find a way to get through it myself. I mean, without that knowledge, you're really setting yourself up for a pretty rough time.
So it just sounds like such great life advice. Look for the good. So when we're in a challenge, we just ask ourselves, man, where's the good here? And there's always something. Well, I want to go into these 7 different aspects of the happiness equation.
Sure.
Where should we start? Which of the 7 should we start?
We'll just take it from the top.
Yep.
So the very, very first question to begin that whole process is, are your basic human needs being met? A yes or no question. I think the thinking behind that is, if you are lacking food, lacking shelter, lacking security, the pursuit of happiness is probably secondary at that point. You need to
safety.
cover. Yeah, you got to cover your safety. You got to take care of the basics.
If we don't have shelter, if our house is being taken from us, if we're being evicted from our home, if we don't have the money for food this week, if we are afraid of our spouse and we're in an abusive relationship, and that's not a basic human need, it is safety. It is impossible to be happy when we are facing that type of a crisis, for sure.
100%. And in the book, we talk about, if that's your situation, priority number 1 is to address that need the best way that you can. And we get really creative, because I can talk about the things I've gone through, and I've gone through a lot, but I haven't gone through some of the worst things and that could happen. But I talk about Viktor Frankl and his story in his book, Admiral Stockdale, and some of the things that he did. Mm-hmm. These are some of the hardest things that a human can possibly go through, and they found a way. So I kind of bring some of that in to help people maybe think out of the box in an attempt to answer that very first. Probably, I mean, they're all important, but it's a very important question.
They're all important. All right.
All important.
So now let's assume, it's a yes or no, but what's question 2?
So, question 2 is, do you belong to any groups that meet regularly and are meaningful to you? So this is the idea of community, human connection. We are communal creatures. That's the way I believe God created us. Science backs that up. It's just the way it is. There are people who have certain, issues where that may be difficult from their brain chemistry standpoint. But I think in the bell curve of humanity, the vast majority of people are going to be significantly benefited by being in community with other people.
Absolutely. I mean, and the science behind this is clear. And so I want to use this as a really helpful situation. This episode can be ridiculously helpful for the happiness of the person who's listening. If you're saying no to this question, that you don't have a group that meets regularly that is meaningful to you, that should be step 1. Let me go find a group of people that meets regularly that's meaningful to me. And I'm sure there's lots of different places we can find that. I was reading a book a long time ago. It was called Take the Stairs by a guy named Rory Verdon.
I've read that book.
And he said in that book, look at these professional groups. One of them, he said, was Young YPO. And another one he said was EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. Another one he said was Vistage. I started to look these groups up. and I ended up signing up for Vistage. And Vistage is a group that of business people that meets every single month for a full day. And we wouldn't just talk about business. Most of the time we talked about life and marriage and children and like different challenges that we were going through. And these became my buddies, my brothers, right? And then now I'm a part of a group called Go Abundance. And I was in a Tony Robbins seminar, and I'm there, and Tony's getting us all hyped. And he said the number one factor of your success is who you hang around. And he said, do you have a group that's elevating you? And I was like, oh man, my buddy Adam has been trying to get me to join this group called Go Abundance for all these years. I keep saying no because I feel like my life is too full. In that seminar, I grabbed my phone, I went on their website, and I hit submit. I'm putting in an application, and now that was 2017. So I've been part of that group now for 7 years, and it's just been amazing. So if you're listening right now, maybe I'm that call to you, and maybe Leighton's that call to you, that there is a group in your town. There's a church group. I've got a buddy that's part of this thing called F3. F3 stands for fitness, faith, and the other F is like about friends. I don't know exactly the word, but it's about like connection. And it's like free, I think. And they get together and they work out in the morning and they pray together and they have all this bonding. And it's like, these groups are all around.
They are. Yeah, they are. I do jujitsu, and yeah, technically we're doing jujitsu, but all the stuff you talking about life, helping each other through and all the different things, all that stuff happens off the mat. It's just, there's so many groups out there. And the thing I talked about also is that these groups need new people. People move away, people change interests. A lot of things happen that any group is going to need new members. So while it might be hard for you to like step out of your comfort zone and join a group, you're kind of an answer to prayer for some of those people, that are there. They're always going to have backdoor activity. So they need people coming in the front door, and you could be that person. So while it might be awkward, just push through that and find people to connect with.
I love it, man. All right. So what's the third thing that we look at for our happiness equation?
So we established the importance of being in a group. Unfortunately, like everything in life, there are no finish lines. So just because you've arrived in a group doesn't mean you can just be a bump on the log, check in, check out, and that's it. That's not how it works. So the third question is, on an A+ to F scale, how would you rate the value that you bring to that group or to the groups that are important to you? We belong to all types of groups, but when I'm asking this question, I'm talking about the groups that are important to you. What value do you bring to those groups? And that, thinking about that, helps you to see, well, how am I showing up here? Like, am I impacting other people? Groups themselves need help in order to stay functioning. And then the people within those groups, they need help too, just to be good members in the group. And then they need help outside of the group for the stuff that's going on in their life. And if you're just coming and going and you're not touching any of that, I would say that you're really not maximizing or optimizing your impact that you could be having and the benefits you receive from doing those things.
I absolutely agree. It's more work to go ahead and say, all right, I'm going to organize some things. It's more work to say, all right, hey, I'm going to volunteer for this thing. It's actually work just to show up. So in that group, that Go Abundance group I was telling you about that I'm really involved with, there's 20 guys in my town that are in that group, and we'll have an activity and 4 will show up. And so one of my metrics that I say is I say yes when they have something going on.
Yeah.
And this is hard to do because I got a lot of other priorities and a lot of other things in my life. And yet that's one of the ways that I'm engaged is I'm just saying, all right, if there's any way possible, I'm going to be there. And I'm tired and it's at night and I gotta, my wife needs some help with the kids. And I'm like, hey, these are my guys. Right. And we just had a goal setting thing and, I think there were 6 of us that were setting goals and then, one of them said, hey, here's what we should do. We should go ahead and meet every 2 months and keep up with these goals. And I was like, I would love to meet every 2 months and keep up with these goals. They're like, all right, let's do it. And I'm like, well, who's going to do it? And they're like, and I said, and we met on a Saturday. And I said, well, today's the first Saturday of the month. How about I create a repeating calendar invite with the 7 of us, the first Saturday of the month, every 2 months. Is that cool with you guys? And they said, sure. So I get all their emails, and what did this take? 10 minutes for me to gather these emails, grab my phone, create a repeating calendar invite. But this is a way now that I'm kind of taking charge in something that means something to me and being more involved in something. And I'm using this as an example, not to pat myself on the back, but just to show how we can get involved in the group that we're in.
Yeah, there's so many ways. I list a bunch in the book, but if you're just aware when you're in a group, like some of the needs are going to be spoken. We need someone to do X. Like that's a great opportunity. A lot of the needs are going to be unspoken, but it's just having your antenna open. If someone's having a charity thing that they do, kind of like if anyone in any of the groups I'm in is doing something for charity, and I think is a good cause, I donate. I
love that.
Yeah. If they have an event that is unrelated to the group that I'm in with them, and they invite me, if it's at all possible, I go.
I love that.
I look for ways to support people, because I'm doing a project right now. I need a lot of, and they have showed up in a huge way.
Right.
But it's like, we're going through this stuff. We're going through life together. We're helping each other succeed, to grow. It's just that life is better when you have people who are like moving with you in the same direction.
The wait is finally over. The Good Mood Revolution book is officially available for pre-order on Amazon today. You can go to Amazon and look for Good Mood Revolution book. And in this book, you're going to find the 8 bad moods that get in the way of your happiness. You're going to learn strategies on how to overcome each of these 8 negative thoughts. They're all lies anyway. And then what the thought patterns are that make us happy every single day. You're also going to learn strategies that can make you really feel fulfilled in your life and make other people around you feel fulfilled as well. So go on Amazon, look for Good Mood Revolution book, and order yours today. Well, these are some really beautiful things. I've spoken about being charitable before, and a couple of times. And I've been really involved with Make-A-Wish. I've been on the board of Make-A-Wish South Carolina, and people are like, well, man, you've got Make-A-Wish, I don't have that one charity. So that's kind of an excuse as to why I'm not charitable. I said, well, Make-A-Wish isn't the only charity that I support. I said, here's my personal rule. If anyone I care about asks me to donate, I have one answer, and that's yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm not saying you have to donate $100. Maybe you don't have $100 to donate today. If somebody that you care about says, hey, can you support this cause? Man, even $25 makes a difference. Yeah. And if you just kind of have that as a rule, but I was fortunate, man. When I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, but I had a mom that was donating $5 to March of Dimes, right? Like even though we didn't have much, she was always finding a way to be charitable. And I just kind of saw that. And so that rubbed off on me. But I really like this idea of when somebody you care about asks you for something like, hey, can you help me move this thing? Like, could you help me pick up this couch and move? Yes, I will be there. It's great. Yeah. And that's the way that we create better bonds.
For sure. For sure.
All right. What's our fourth question?
Fourth one is, on an A+ to F scale, how would you rate your gratitude? It's a big one. And in the equation, like I said, it's full math equation and all that stuff. But I put gratitude as an exponent. And it's important because exponents are one of the most powerful functions in math. And the reason why I did that is because gratitude has the ability to take any of the other variables. Just think of having your basic needs being met. Like, sometimes we take that for granted. Like, yeah, I'm good with number one, but you have so much to be thankful for because of that. Think of all the humans that came before you and the ones that'll come after you, who they can't say yes to that. And they're in some really dire situations. So just being aware of that and expressing gratitude for that. it takes all this stuff and it puts it on steroids. So I think a mindset of gratitude is very key, and that's why I placed it as an exponent in the equation.
What are some ways that you strengthen your gratitude? Because I don't think gratitude is something we have or don't have. I think gratitude's a practice.
I agree, for sure. Yeah, I list them all, not all, but many of them. I don't do the traditional write them down. I don't take a journal. I don't do that, but I am intentional in a couple ways. One of the first things that I do is I constantly remind myself that tomorrow is not promised. Like, I'm here now. I can have an impact now. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So I'm thankful that I have this moment right now, and I'm going to do what I can to take advantage of it. I remind myself that my family members are not guaranteed to be here tomorrow. So they're in my life now. We can be together and have a good moment and experience something great. I'm going to take that opportunity and internalize that as much as possible. Look at being in a beautiful place. We live in South Florida. Beautiful. The coastline. There's so many things to look at that are beautiful. But on my book tour that we went on, we went kind of from here all the way up to the Canadian border. We saw the fall. I haven't seen like a really beautiful fall in a very long time, but we were on some of the largest college campuses kind of on the East Coast, and their fall backdrops unbelievably stunning, and just take a moment like, wow, this is just so beautiful. So those are some of the things that I do to keep gratitude in the forefront of my mind.
Yeah, for a while, I had this practice where I would pick one person I cared about, and I would think about this being the last week that they're alive.
Wow, that's tough. That's heavy. Effective.
And I would think about like walking into my daughter's room and seeing an empty bed, and weeks on end, like not wanting to move her things out of her room, and months on end, and a year later, not wanting to touch her room still because we're just still so heartbroken. And man, tears just streaming down my face, just missing this little girl, all imaginary.
Yeah.
And it was part of a meditation to strengthen gratitude, exactly as you're saying that, hey, she's not guaranteed to be here tomorrow. Of course, we, being part of Make-A-Wish, I know that we're not guaranteed that these children are going to be with us. It's no guarantee I'm going to be with them. My wife tomorrow is driving to see a friend that she grew up with. It might be the last time she ever sees her. And I would then wake up from this meditation with just crying. And I'd be like Ebenezer Scrooge on Christmas Day, like, she's still here. Tiny Tim lives. And and I go hug everybody in my family and buy the biggest
what's wrong
goose.
with you?
And like my heart just overflowing with love and gratitude. And that practice was so intense. I probably did it every day for 2 months.
That's very intense.
And then I couldn't do it. I couldn't keep up with it because it was such an emotional roller coaster. But those 2 months were very impactful for me too, because
it makes it
because
tangible.
It was a time that I was really trying to strengthen the fact that, I do take for granted that I'm still alive. I do take for granted that my children are still alive, but man, they don't have to be. It's
powerful. Powerful.
So gratitude, in my opinion, is probably you were saying the basic human needs is most important or very important. It is. I think when after that's settled, I think gratitude's right there.
Yeah, I would say, man, it's like who's your favorite? Which one's your favorite kid? But gratitude is.
All right, don't say their name.
There's a strong case for gratitude. There's a strong case for. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. All right. So what's after gratitude?
So the fifth question is, when a meaningful situation does not go as expected, negative impact on your emotions lasts short time, moderate time, or long time. And me personally, spoiler alert, I don't get 100% on the happiness score. This is the one area that I have to work on. It's just, I wish, and I know people, my brother is a person who legitimately something happens and he's over it before I can start process. I got to process everything. I got to put it through my mental stuff. And I wish I could get over things quicker. I don't really take a huge time, but it's just something that I do have to work on.
So, Leighton, how do we work on it? How do we shorten that?
Well, it's some of the things that we've touched on already, which is finding the good in whatever's going on. Also, for the smaller things in life, like somebody cuts you off in traffic, I'm good with that. That stuff I'm good. I do not let it mess with me at all. Like people cut me off, I do not care. Those kinds of things, you got to let them go quickly. Don't let them impact your day at all. The bigger things, there are some strategies in terms of finding the good in what's happened. I talk about this in the book. It's like you may be living with a family member, touches on what you just mentioned. And I think to myself, what happens if, and these words are in my book, what happens if I came home and that thing that it drove me crazy that they were doing, it just will never be there again. When I was doing my audiobook, some of these things that I wrote, I'm choking up as I'm reading it because they're like, I'm internalizing thinking about some of this stuff. So if someone has good intentions and they're not trying to hurt you, as quickly as you can, forgive, move on. It's not that big a deal. There's a lot bigger things to, put your attention and focus on.
I've done so much work on this particular thing because, man, nothing hurts more than somebody you care about that hurts you. Like nothing hurts more. It's the worst pain. And so I've done a lot of work on it because I don't want to be hurt all the time. I want to feel good. Sure. And the thing that's helped me the most in this area personally is understanding this is the best that they can do today. That this isn't personal. This isn't about me. They're doing the very best that they can do. Their best right now, it caused me some pain. If they could do better, they would be doing better. And so, can I love them where they're at? Can I love them where they're at? I know that, if we get to a certain level, man, we know we don't ever want to cause anyone pain. Sure. At this point, man, I don't want anyone hurt. I don't want anyone's feelings hurt. Sometimes I still do hurt their feelings, but if I do, I want to make it right. So when somebody's intentionally coming and hurting us, it just means that, man, hurt people hurt people. So this is somebody that inside it has so much pain that's coming out and it's coming at me. I find a lot of compassion for that person now because I used to be that person that was hurt inside and hurting others on purpose. And I think, well, their best is somebody that's in pain. Can I have some compassion that they're in so much pain, they want to cause pain right now? And then understand that, hey, they're still on their journey to growing more and more loving, and they got a long way to go.
I agree. I think giving people grace, not fully knowing, it's one thing when someone may cut you off. It's like they could be rushing to the hospital to, right. I've had to rush my kids to the hospital at full speed and break red lights.
Yeah.
But the people who I cut off and maybe I ruined a couple of days, but I had to do that. You don't know what someone's going through. And
we don't.
Giving them the grace to have a moment or whatever's going on with them, we've been there as well too. So I think that is definitely key what you're saying.
And I talk with people I work with, and they're like, "Man, this person cussed me out on the phone today." And I always say, "Man, you don't know if they're going through a divorce right now. You don't know if their mom's sick. You don't know if their wife is sick. You don't know if they're sick. You don't know if they just lost their dog, their son, their daughter. You just don't know. They're not cussing you out because you did anything wrong.
Yeah.
They're cussing you out. They're giving you this grief because something's wrong inside, because something's going on in their world. So I know it's not easy, but these are the ways I work on this one myself. And I didn't score perfect on this one either.
Spoiler.
So, all right, what's our next one?
So the sixth one is, do you believe your life has a purpose?
Yeah.
This is a heavy one. Some people believe, some people don't. For those who don't believe, they're actually not penalized because The point is not to like make people feel bad, but if you generally don't believe that life has a purpose, it does not impact your score. My concern is for the people who say they don't believe, but they actually do. They are missing out on a huge area of their life, because that tug of, are you fulfilling your purpose, is a big part of how we go through life, and it definitely impacts our happiness. So the sixth question and the seventh question, they dovetail into one another. So the sixth question is, do you believe your life has a purpose? Which I do believe my life and everyone's life has a purpose. The seventh question is, on an A+ to F scale, how would you rate your progress to achieving your purpose in life? Again, there's no finish line. So congratulations, you believe your life has a purpose. Okay, now what are you doing about it? And those are all the questions.
Are you looking to take your happiness to another level? If you're looking to be more successful, we need to be happier, because success and happiness go hand in hand. But sometimes we get stuck in thought patterns we don't even know are holding us back. And we need a coach or a mentor to see things we can't see with our own eyes. I've had coaches and mentors help me access levels of happiness I couldn't have achieved without them. I'm now offering that same service to a small, select number of people. If you think one-on-one coaching could elevate your happiness, go to mattoneil.com and click the coaching tab to learn more. I look forward to talking with you. And my mom always said she knew what her life purpose was when she saw her children. And she said, you children are my life purpose. And so I'm saying this to the person that's listening to this, is saying, well, hey, I didn't write a book like Leighton did or Matt did, or, so maybe I don't have a purpose. To my mom, and she's so fulfilled that her purpose was to raise her 4 children and to do it the best that she possibly could. And she did a freaking great job, man. So our life purpose sometimes can be to take care of the people that are around us, and that have great relationships and great friendships and be the best human being we can. So that's one of the ways we can look at it.
And I share this in the book, but I feel my purpose in life, and I felt it since I was 13 years old. I'm 46 now, and it's resonated with me throughout that entire time and resonates with me to this day. I feel my purpose in life is to be a good husband and a good father. And it comes from me not seeing that while I was growing up and wanting to do better. And you can trace almost everything in my life to that purpose.
And this is also cool. We're talking about looking for the good. I know you said you didn't have the best relationship with your dad.
Did not.
But the good in that is it gave you purpose, that you become this amazing husband and father.
Yeah, you're right. It's life has a funny way of things coming together. But yeah, that is definitely a positive that came out of it. And I had an interesting conversation with someone, and although my father was estranged, his life with his father was even harder than some of the stuff we went through. And someone said to me, and I had already gotten to a point where I forgave my father, and it's like I moved on. I wanted the best from him and all that. Someone said he may have left because he knew if he had stayed, he could have repeated some of that. And I was like, man, I never even thought about that. So that's like an extra layer of grace. I mean, he's passed on now, but it's like an extra layer of grace I didn't know that I could extend to him that I do now. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I actually came to the same kind of epiphany myself with my dad, who was a tough dad to be raised by. That when I trace back how hard it was for him to be raised by his dad, it was rough. And then his dad had it even rougher. And so, again, it kind of goes back to this thing that if somebody's out there hurting you, there's a lot of pain inside of them. And that's one of the ways we can find compassion. All right, man. Well, here's the score. Drum roll. I was a 96.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
I was so proud of it. I'm like, I got an A.
Yeah. Fortunately, you got me. Congratulations. I score around 84-ish.
84, man. Hey, that's a good grade right there.
Yeah. It's this is a good opportunity to tell people that your score is just a number. Don't get hung up on it if you didn't score how you felt you should. The whole idea of this is a lot of people want to get happier, but they're not sure where to start. This could be a great place to start.
It absolutely is. And getting your book too, man. Like, I mean, these 7 categories, you're talking about the science of what it takes to be happy. I think we live in one of the most isolated times ever. What's your take on what we need to do to kind of combat this thought that we're connected electronically and get back into actually seeing people face to face again and belly to belly again?
I think it boils down to awareness. First of all, knowing that that's an issue. And then once you become aware of that, is to be intentional about doing something about it and going out and doing the hard work. And it's really kind of not that hard. There is a group that's not very far from you of people who want you to be there, who are going to make your transition in easy, and you're going to develop really great relationships. It may not be the first one you go to, but they're definitely out there. So that's what I would say.
Man, one of my favorite movies of all time is this movie, Yes Man, with Jim Carrey. Have you seen that movie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, I saw that.
I played it for my kids. Okay, it's a little bit inappropriate. There's definitely a scene in that movie that's not appropriate for kids. I learned that when I was playing it with my kids. However, the premise of the movie is phenomenal because it was in like, I don't know, it was early 2000s when that movie came out. And he's in a Blockbuster. So this Blockbuster was still around. And his friend is on the phone with him. And his friend is like, dude, can you come out tonight? And he's like, oh no, I'm busy. I'm slammed. I'm still at work. But he's like browsing movie titles to just take a movie home and go sit inside. And his friend is outside the Blockbuster looking at him through the glass. And he's like, dude, why are you doing this? And so Jim Carrey was just this total hermit that had decided to disconnect from society because he had a huge relationship breakup. And then he goes to the seminar and the guy hypnotizes him and says, you have to say yes to every invitation.
Yeah.
And it's a wild thing where he has to say yes to anything anybody asks him, which makes the movie pretty wild. But his life ends up becoming so freaking cool.
Yeah.
Right. He's like taking guitar lessons. He's doing rollerblading camp. He's like meeting these different people. And all of a sudden, like he's got friends all over the neighborhood. And instead of being this hermit that's always sad and alone, he's out here like hanging out with all these people and having the time of his life. I'm telling this story. If you haven't seen the movie, go see it. Be careful with your kids. There's one scene that's questionable. However, it's a wonderful way to live. And Katie and I say this a lot, like we'll be invited to something. We were invited to a charity. We don't know the charity, but we know the friends. It's a Thursday night. We've got cheerleading carpool. She's like, man, we're going to be so tired. I don't know. And I'm like, you know what we should do? We should go to that thing. She's like, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what are we saving our energy for? What are we saving it for? Yeah, we're going to be tired. It's a Thursday night. We're going to be tired on Friday. Then we might be a little bit more tired on the weekend. But what are we saving it for? We want to like be well rested on a Thursday so that we can watch a good Netflix on Friday night.
It's a great point.
Maybe that energy is meant to say yes when we're invited to do things with real people instead of the TV. And then we can rest up after. So I really, it is, I know you say it's easy to get out, but I feel that pull of the couch and Netflix and saving that energy. And it is kind of hard to say yes sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. It is hard to say yes sometimes. I would say that it's necessary to say yes.
If we want to be happy.
Exactly. It may be hard, and it's harder for some people than others, but it is necessary.
Yeah, man. Leighton, this has just been phenomenal. Where can we get your book? Where can we learn more about you?
Sure. So our website is yourhappinesseq.com. That you can pre-order the book there or order the book if this is out by the time the book is live, but we're only a couple weeks away anyway. So that's the best place to pre-order the book or order the book. And then just to follow along with the journey, we've done street interviews, we've done all types of crazy stuff. That would be on our Instagram page, best place to keep up with us. And that is at Your Happiness EQ.
Man, I appreciate you putting this work out in the world. You're doing good things, man.
Matt, I really appreciate the opportunity to be on with you.
And y'all, thank you for listening. I hope that you go take that happiness score, and no matter where it is, be happy, because we can always make progress. All right, we'll see y'all next week.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode with Matt O'Neill.